You know that Keeley Companies is all about fostering the world-class culture through their incredible cultural pillars. Well, it was time to add a seventh cultural pillar, Keeley Green. Guided by the mission to raise the sustainability standards by which they design, build, operate, and live, Keeley Green is dedicated to using a holistic approach to leave a positive impact on our environment, create a future that is sustainable for generations to come. In the words of Rusty Keeley, we are just getting started. You can learn more about that just getting started mentality and all the work they do by visiting my friends at Keeley Companies online at KeeleyCompanies.com.
Welcome to the Live Inspired podcast with John O'Leary. John is the two-time national best-selling author of On Fire and In Awe. He's a world-class inspirational speaker, the host of the Live Inspired podcast, and he's the real-life inspiration behind the major motion picture Soul on Fire. Each week, John interviews extraordinary individuals about their life stories so you can more fully live your life story. Here's your host, John O'Leary.
Hello, my friends, and welcome to the Live Inspired podcast with John O'Leary. You're in, as you always are on our episodes, for a treat today. This one is with my friend, Chris Seilkop. Chris is a four-time Paralympian and a longtime member of the U.S. men's sitting volleyball team. After losing his leg in a lawnmower accident, you'll hear more about that in a moment, he was only 7. Chris refused to let tragedy define him. Instead, fueled by resilience, a little family support, a little love, a little faith, Chris built an entire life marked by perseverance, faithful generosity, competing, on the world's biggest stages. That's a big deal. But more than that, I think doing so in order to elevate the lives of those on the court and cheering from the stands. You're going to hear more about that in a moment. Today, Chris shares how the childhood accident reshaped his life, his family, and his community that helped him move forward, and the mindset that carried him from a hospital bed to 4 Paralympic Games. Pretty remarkable. He reflects on the heartbreaking losses, the meaningful victories, and the perspective that helped him keep going, not only in his walk, but in encouraging others to keep going in theirs. Family, friends, brothers and sisters, if you have ever noticed and faced setbacks around you and wondered what's coming next, well, this conversation is for you. You will leave reminded that life's hardest moments do not get the final word. Through humor, a little humility, and some hard-earned wisdom, Chris shows us how resilience, community, and perseverance can turn even life's greatest challenges into a chance to lift up others. So family, buckle up. You'll need your favorite Live Inspired John O'Leary pen as I bring on my friend, now yours, his name, Chris Seilkop. Chris, welcome to Live Inspired with John O'Leary.
Thank you for the invitation. I am honored and humbled to be here.
Well, dude, you and I were 16 minutes in, and finally I'm like, Chris, I need to go to work. I need to hit record. We need to start bringing the audience into this incredible story that you have and this relationship that we're forming. So when you have an opportunity, whether it's in Daytona or somewhere else around the country or world, to introduce yourself, and you say, my name's Chris, what do you say to that?
My name's Chris Seilkop. I say I work for the YMCA.
Why do you work for the Y?
That's a great question. And people are amazed. I've been with the Y 36 years. I started in 1990. And it was one day I was in college and I was working part-time for the YMCA, and I was doing youth sports and I was doing wellness. And I was walking down the hallway, and my degree was in political science and international relations. So I thought I wanted to be an attorney for about 5 minutes. And I said, you know what? I could probably do this for a living. So I was trying to decide what course in life I wanted to go in. And I think it was just the fact I get to help people. That's what it comes down to. And when you get to the core of it, I think it's because so many people helped me growing up that I want to give back. And I have the unique distinction and honor to actually run a YMCA in the community that I was born and raised in.
Wow.
And that never happens in the YMCA world because you have to move around to move up. And very rarely do you end up being a CEO back where you started. So I'm very
We're going to be
blessed.
talking about that role within the Y, the work you're doing, the impact you're having at the end. But I want to hear about this community where you were raised, some of the people who helped guide you. So tell me what your life was like before age 7? What's community like? What were you into? We'll talk about a moment that turns your life in a different direction. But what was your
Yeah,
normal life like, Chris?
Mm.
I was born and raised in a small town called DeLand, Florida. It's in between Daytona Beach and Orlando, home of the Stetson Hatters. So it was a town growing up of only about, I think at the time, 15,000 people, maybe 14,000 people. And my father was the only orthodontist in town. So everyone in town knew our name, which was good and bad because I couldn't get away with anything because everyone knew. And I was the youngest of five. So all my older brothers and sisters all went through the school, and so all the teachers knew my name. And fortunately, there was four older brothers, one sister, and I'm trying to think. Two of them were good students, and two of them weren't. So,
So
so
what were you, Chris?
I was a good one, but my oldest brother, he was a hellion. He was bad. He got in a lot of trouble. And then my older brother, he was smart. My sister was smart. Then my next brother next to me, he was mediocre student. And so we all went to the same school. We went to a Catholic school called St. Peter's. And so what was cool about St. Peter's was I had the same 30 kids, 25, 30 kids for 7, 8 years growing up from first grade to seventh grade. And so very cool. Small town. New Smyrna Beach is a half hour away. So we would go to the beach on the weekends. I remember that fondly. And then a lot of orange trees. I remember as a kid picking oranges off of orange trees, tangerines, picking them off of the tangerine trees when we got hungry. We ride our bike down the road, just get off, grab an orange, grab a tangerine. So yeah, good. I was blessed.
You were and are, and yet there have been ups and downs along the way. And so people have heard me already allude to it, but we'll be more direct right now. What happened at age 7? What changed your life?
Age 7, it was June. It was a hot summer day. It was a Saturday. And we were mowing the front yard. We had a big yard, about an acre of grass that we had to mow. And so I was on the lawnmower with my older brother. He was 9 or 10 at the time. And my father had gone inside to get something to drink. It was probably 90, 95 degrees out or so. And we were riding together, and then we took a corner and we missed a patch of grass on the corner. And I said, "Hey, we need to go back and get that." And my brother like, "Oh no, we're just going to get it next time around." I said, "No, we need to go back and get that." And me being the perfectionist. And we got into an argument kind of there on the lawnmower, and I fell off the side of the lawnmower and my leg slid underneath. And it did a slice and dice
Mm.
on my leg. And then my dad came out, and he had to put a tourniquet on my leg, pull the car around, put me in the car, and take me to the hospital. So it was a pretty severe injury.
Tell me about it, because slice and dice isn't the significance of what ultimately happened. So
Well,
when
if
you
you
get
want
to
to
the
get
hospital, what happens?
well, if you want to get graphic with it, I was trying to move my toes, and I could see the bones in my calf moving. But the interesting thing, like we get to the hospital, I'm in the emergency room, they're doing their thing, and I remember a guy came in who fell off a boat, and his face got caught in the propeller somehow. And I remember thinking, man, that guy's worse off than me. So I'm 7 years old in the emergency room thinking about some other person who got into an accident and thinking, man, he's really messed up. He's really in a tough situation.
Well, that perspective might help shape your recovery, but it's not going to be an easy one. What ultimately happened to the leg?
Well, my father, having a medical background, he is very, very wise in the fact that he was trying to save the leg and trying to save it below the knee, amputation instead of above the knee. So I was in there for about a month, and they were trying to save it. And I can tell you probably the most painful, and you understand pain with your background, on probably on a different level than the pain I experienced, but probably the most painful experience was they were trying to figure out what parts of the leg were still alive and what parts were dead. And so I remember they held me down, and this was probably about a month into being in the hospital. And they took a metal rod and started poking the metal rod inside of my leg
Hmm.
without any anesthesia whatsoever. And that probably had to be by far the most painful experience of my life. And so then eventually, from my understanding, gangrene set in, and my father sent me to a third hospital, which happened to be Shands Hospital, which is a well-known teaching hospital in Gainesville. And my father went to University of Florida. That's where he got his dental degree from. And so Shands was able to amputate my leg below the knee. and about 6 inches. So it's not a real long stump, but it's enough still to hold an artificial leg. And so after about 2 or 3 months in the hospital, they amputated it.
What's that like as a kid to, you're a little athlete, to know that the dreams at the time are over, that the things you thought you would do no longer will come to pass?
That is a great question because I grew up in a very athletic family, youngest of five. My father, he won a state championship of baseball. He could have played college baseball. He got drafted by the St. Louis Cardinals at shortstop. And my older brothers played basketball and football. My sister actually taught me how to shoot at basketball. And so the Olympics were huge. And I remember we watched the 76 Olympics a year before my accident. And I remember Bruce Jenner, and I remember all the, track and field events. And it was a big deal for us. It was a big deal in our family. And then after the accident, I thought, man, I'm never going to be in the Olympics. And I remember thinking about that. Oh, I'm not going to be in the Olympics. That one's done. And it's funny how life works out, as we'll tell later on in this podcast, I'm sure. So that was one side of it, but the other side, it's interesting, and it sounds odd. I was just enjoying my stay in the hospital. I was just enjoying, and it sounds weird, but it was someplace different. And, you're 7 years old. It's just someplace different. So I was enjoying blowing up the rubber hand balloons that they would give me to make sure my lungs were still getting exercise. And I blow these big balloons with those rubber gloves. And
Yes.
I remember getting all the apple juice I wanted. I want apple juice. I just push a button. I get apple juice. And I get more. Oh, I want some Gatorade. I push a button. I get some Gatorade. And then coloring and not have to be in school. School started and I was still in the hospital, so I didn't have to go to school. Cool. All right. Yeah. So, and it's funny, I think back, I have more positive memories than I do negative
Remarkable.
memories. Yeah, it's life works sometimes like that, I guess.
Did you have any say at all in whether they would or would not amputate your leg? Like, did you have a voice in that, or was it just kind of done for you and you wake up and it's gone?
Yeah, it was done. I had no say in it. I think I remember maybe my parents talking to me about it a little bit. Again, this was 49 years ago. I can't believe I've been an amputee that long. Man, I'm getting old.
Well, even the way you're talking about the YMCA, I mean, you and I are both old. Like, it's amazing when you can count in decades how long you've been doing the work you've been doing, which you and I both can count now. So we're old.
But yeah, I just remember, honestly, I remember one day I woke up and my leg wasn't there anymore. And I remember that very vividly.
So as a kid, when you wake up and the leg's gone and you see the sheets, I mean, it's just a hard thing to even imagine visually. But you're looking down and what was once there is now gone and always will be. What do you do with that as a kid?
I think back what I was thinking at the time, and it was just, okay, what's next? All right, that's next up. Just be me and just continue being a kid. And I really didn't think of myself any more different than anybody else
It's
at the
awesome.
time. I do remember I was in a wheelchair and I was so motivated to get out of that wheelchair. I remember my mom taking me to a museum in Gainesville in a wheelchair. And I'm like going, oh, this sucks. I gotta get out of this thing. I don't like this at all.
So I had the kinds of parents who made me get up. They made me pick up a fork. They made me play the piano. They made me play soccer when I was barely out of the wheelchair. Like they just kind of pushed me forward, not out of arrogance, but truly out of love. And like in doing difficult things, it allowed me the next time to do it more easily. Like what a gift that is, agency in a child's life. What did your parents do well for you as you look back on it? When you think about after that injury and as you're returning to life and trying to live it more fully, what did your parents do well?
I think they were supportive. I remember, I think the first sport I played when I got back on my feet was T-ball. And they were very supportive of it. They really didn't force me to do anything. I think more it was my older brothers and sisters that pushed me and forced me to do stuff than my parents did.
Yeah.
Earlier we talked about Catholic guilt and stuff. I'm gonna give you a quick story about that. I remember the first time I ran. I was in second grade and I was late for class. And we had Sister Maureen, and I was so scared that I was going to get in trouble for being late to class. And I may have had an artificial leg at the time for maybe a month, right? Maybe 2 months. And I had never run with this artificial leg. I had skipped. I'd hop 2 times and my artificial leg would come around, and then I hop two times, artificial leg would come around and hop 2 times. But I never actually ran foot over foot ever. And I remember I was skipping like that, trying to get to class, and all of a sudden I'm running. And I'm running down the hallway getting to class out of fear I was going to be paddled for being late. And I remember looking down going, oh, I'm running. All right,
Yeah.
cool. How about that? Finally. So,
Thank heavens for Sister Noreen.
that's right. I think it was Sister Noreen. She set me on my path of athletics.
So you're talking about T-ball. You're talking about running for class. You were athletic. Your family was athletic. How did you find volleyball?
I had played some recreationally in high school where we just have a 6-on-6 game. And I ended up, that, hey, I can spike pretty well. I jump pretty good for my size. But I never played organized. I got into college. I played in a fraternity team. I never had any real coaching. And it was just, I was a basketball player. I grew up playing basketball since before I lost my leg. One day I graduated. I was working for the YMCA about a year into it. And I asked my prosthetist, I said, hey, is there like a standing basketball? Because wheelchair basketball I knew about, but I didn't want to play wheelchair basketball. I want to play standing basketball. I said, is there any kind of standing basketball league or team or anything? And he goes, no, there isn't. There's nothing like that. I said, man, it really stinks. And then a good friend of mine at work, he showed me an article from Volleyball magazine that showed this standing team of all amputees playing volleyball. And they were traveling around the U.S. And I said, that's pretty cool. I want to be on that team. And I looked back, and I didn't want to be on that team because I liked the sport. I wanted to be on the team to show them that I was the best amputee athlete there is. I wanted to be the Michael Jordan of amputee athletes or the Larry Bird of amputee athletes. I wanted to show how good I was. I got hold of this coach. They said, hey, next month we'll be in Atlanta. Why don't you come up and try out during this tournament? And so me and my same friend, Jose Rodriguez, we got into the car, drove, 8 hours to Atlanta. We stayed at my brother's place up there, and they were playing an able-bodied men's volleyball tournament. During warm-ups, he said, hey, why don't you get in, hit some balls, and let's see what you got. And I said, all right. So I hopped in the line with the players. They didn't know who I was. I didn't find out until like 15 years ago when I was talking to my setter, who's now retired for decades. He goes, yeah, we thought you were some able-bodied jerk who just hopped in the line and started hitting balls. The coach didn't tell the team who I was or why I was there.
You were wearing pants?
Yeah, I was wearing sweatpants, so you couldn't tell I had an artificial leg at the time. So I was wondering why they would give me such a cold shoulder when I was hitting balls.
Because to become the type of athlete you would become in time within this squad, it requires like total focus. To talk about that decision to not just wear sweatpants and show up and play in Atlanta, but to really commit yourself to excelling in this sport.
Yeah, it's just an internal drive you have to be your best. It's one thing, you can be the best, but if you always try to be the best, I think you're always going to run into a mental block because you're never going to get there. I mean, you have to have a drive to be the best you can be. And that's going to be the best you can be in everything. The best you can be at work, the best you can be as a friend, the best you can be as a companion to someone, the best you can be in any small task you have to do. And I coach girls volleyball for many years, and I tell them, if you do the small things right, like move your feet and have your hips pointing in the right way, you do the small things right, the big things like winning will take care of themselves. If you just try to do the big things and not take care of the small things, you're not going to be successful. You're not going to get there. So if you just take care of the small stuff, and once you get the small stuff done, you have a small accomplishment, then another small accomplishment, then another small accomplishment, then another small accomplishment. You get momentum, and that encourages you along the way to get to the big accomplishment down here. But you got to take all those small steps. And I think it's just determination. You just got to be very determined, and you got to have that attitude and that's something I developed really young. You've got to be determined. You got to have goals, and you got to have small goals and a lot of small goals, because if you have one big goal, you're going to lose momentum along the way. You're going to lose faith because it's just so far out there. You're not having any success. So it's building on a small success and small success and small success. Then you get to the big success.
You become a big success. We'll kind of break this down into little pieces. What was it like for you representing your country and ultimately bringing in the gold, standing on that platform and hearing the national anthem play?
It was sweet. I think that my favorite gold medal was 2019 in China. We
By the way,
won.
can we just acknowledge what an arrogant statement? Anyone who leads a statement with my favorite gold medal, I mean, that's just, no one else says that besides Chris. So, Chris, all right, tell us the story of your favorite gold medal.
Yeah, I'm a good friend of mine. He would call that flexing. He goes, "Oh, there's some called flexing again."
Well, yeah, but
Uh,
I don't have a gold medal, so I'm glad you have a favorite gold medal. So tell us
well,
about your favorite gold
I
medal.
don't have that many, but it was redemption is what it was. The 2000 Paralympics, we were favored. We were undefeated coming out of pool play. We got into the gold medal rounds. We lost the semifinals to Canada in 5 games, and the fifth game was 15-13. So we lost
Wow.
by 2 points. We get to the bronze. We play Slovakia, who we beat in 4 games earlier in pool play. In both matches, we're up 2 games to 1, I remind you. And so we only need to have you only need to win three, sets, and we're up 2 sets to 1. We about Slovakia, we lose that one 17-15. So I lost 2 matches by a total of 4 points, and I end up in fourth place.
Yeah.
That devastated me. It took me years to get over that. So when you play for the US in the Olympics or Paralympics, they give you a ring. I put that ring away, and I didn't look at that ring for probably 3-4 years because it was such a disappointing and painful experience. Fast forward 2019, we're playing in a new format, 3-man beach, World Championships in Pingtan, China.
Yes.
I'm playing with one of my teammates who I played with in 2000, and then another teammate I started playing with soon afterwards. So we've been together for a while. We ended up winning that tournament, but we beat a team out of Poland who had beat us a few years earlier in the finals in a beach tournament, who had never lost a match ever.
Wow.
And we were the first team to beat them, and we beat them in the finals in 3. It was redemption for me. Getting back and accomplishing something that I set out to do decades ago, I finally did it. I finally got that monkey that I put on my back. I finally got him off my back. But being on that stand, hearing the national anthem after, wow, 96 was when I started playing. So after 20 something years. And I mean, it was cool that we beat a team that was undefeated, who beat us earlier, but winning it with a teammate of mine who went through the same disappointment I did in 2000 because we were both starters on the team. We finally got something together and we accomplished something, and we did it in a major tournament. I could finally walk away from the game and say, all right, I'm done. I accomplished everything I wanted to accomplish. I can retire happy and content.
So part of what I love about the Olympics is the competition. Part of what I love, and I think really what I love even more, is the collaboration and this weird connection that athletes have to one another. And frequently they don't even speak the same language or have the same worship music. I mean, just they come in from completely different backgrounds. I've heard you share the story before, and I may mess this up. You may have been playing Cambodia.
Yeah.
I did my recon
Yeah.
man on your story, and it's just in a world that flexes and wants to win and beat as far down as we can our opponents. I think this other athlete reminded you of what we share. So would just share with me that story?
We were playing Cambodia in pool play, and they were a pretty new team. And as you imagine, Cambodia is not a tall race. And really for me as a middle blocker, I'm going up, and it was like target practice. I hit that guy now, hit that guy over there, and I could put the ball anywhere I wanted to. And so we were blowing them out. We were way up, and there was no doubt in the game. And to preface this, the year before, or 2 years before, I was voted best blocker in the world as a middle blocker, right? So I transitioned to go outside. And well, let me back up. We had, and again, the Olympic Village is really cool place, but the cafeteria is where you have a lot of interaction, really. And so we had run into the Cambodian team a couple of times in the cafeteria, a few of their players, and they would always stop us, and they would point at our artificial legs because they had never seen that technology before with the graphite and the titanium, because their legs were actually wood, which was my leg was growing up. I actually had a wooden leg growing up too. And so we let them, hold our leg and look at it. And so even though we didn't speak English, and they didn't speak English, and we didn't speak Cambodian, we actually created a bond and a relationship. And we smiled and laughed in ways that doesn't require actually verbal communication.
Yes.
And so fast forward, we're playing them, and I go outside, transition on an outside set to double block with my right side. And I go up the block, and the Cambodian hits it. It hits my arm. It's called a hit tool. He tooled me. He hit my arm, and it goes out of bounds for their point, right? So normally after every point, we get together as a team, real quick huddle, say, okay, forget about the play, move on to the next play type of the deal. So I turn around to get to my huddle, and I can't move. Something's holding me, and I'm like, going, what? I raise my arms, and I look down, and the Cambodian player had come under the net to give me a hug. And so he was so happy that he tooled the best blocker in the world. For some reason, he felt like he had to hug me, or he felt bad that he tooled me. I don't know, but I'm looking down, and I'm getting hugged on the court. And then he lets go, and I go into a huddle, and I remember Joe Sullivan, my setter. We're in the huddle, and he goes, man, Seilkop, I've never seen anyone get tooled and hugged on the court before. And it was so cool. Was afterwards. I mean, we beat them like a drum that match. And afterwards, there was a screw up in the transportation. And normally, teams take two different buses when you leave, go back to the village, because you don't want them interacting in case there's some bad blood, right? So we get there outside, and we see that they're on the bus. There's only one bus, and they're on it. And like, oh, well, where's our bus? I said, oh no, you're going to be on the bus with Cambodians. I'm like, going, oh man, we just hammered them. I don't know if they'll be mad or what. So we get on the bus. And as soon as we get on the bus, they start singing. And they're singing some national cultural song, because I don't know what it is. They're like, oh man, this is pretty cool. These guys aren't even mad. In fact, this is kind of what it should be like, in the Olympics. So they get done. And I remember I look around at my teammates, and I go, all right, guys, so what should we sing? And I don't know. I don't know a song that we all know. I have no idea. So I go, well, how about 99 Bottles of Beer on the Wall? All right, yeah, let's do that. So we got like 2 bottles and 99 bottles of beer on the wall, and that was about it. And then we stopped, and they started clapping and cheering. So that was some good cultural interaction we had with the Cambodian team.
Well, yeah, you had, I think, 4 Paralympics you participated in?
4, 2 in standing, so which is your traditional volleyball, and then 2 in sitting volleyball, which is a different version of standing. It's on about a racquetball-sized court. The net's about 3.5 feet high. It's a much faster game. You have to be on your rear end, and you have to be on your rear end when you contact the ball. If not, it's called a butt lift. And it's a fast, fun game. In fact, it's pretty cool. During the U.S. Open, we'll have mixed teams with able-bodied players and disabled players, and a few Olympic players come out and play. Kevin Barnett being one who if you watch any volleyball match, he's one of the commentators all the time. He's a great guy, funny as all get out. But he gets a team up from California, and it's always fun to play with him because he talks smack during the game, then I'll talk smack during the game, and we're just jawing at each other. He loves it because it's a fast-paced game, and it saves your knees because there's no jumping. So I played 2 Paralympics in sitting volleyball also, and hopefully the 3rd in LA. We'll see what happens.
You were nominated as a Paralympian of the Year.
Yeah, I was nominated by USA Volleyball a number of years ago. Every NGB picks out one person, and I think that was 2004 because I led the team in scoring in Athens, and scoring and blocking, and so they nominated me.
Sort of tied to that is you get a little bit of notoriety, and your father, the orthodontist, who is humble and medically driven and a great dad, also had a response to some of that fame. Would you just briefly share that story?
Yeah, that's a touching story for me because it was so unexpected. So Volleyball magazine came out with an article, and in the article it was on our team. The first page was a full picture of me passing a ball, which is, those who play with me know that's pretty ironic that they have a picture of me passing the floor and passing a ball, but it was the entire page, right? My wife was telling me a story that they went to the supermarket, and they were in the checkout line, and my dad bought out all the magazines. I think there was like 5, and he bought all of them. And This guy, I think in high school he came to maybe 3 or 4 of my basketball games. I mean, he was supportive, but he just wasn't outgoing at all, very reserved.
Right.
And she said that he got to the checkout and he opened the magazine and he pointed to my page to the lady checking this out, going, "Hey, this is my son right here." And I think, man, that is so out of character of my dad. That's why, to me, it's just a touching story because dad tells me, from my experience with him interaction, just how proud of me he was because he wouldn't ever tell me that.
Mm.
But
Well,
to do that, it meant a lot to me.
I can hear it in your voice and I can see that in your face. And I'm glad that he put out the magazines. And although he may not have shown you or posted it on Facebook, the pride at that counter was on display, full display, man. It's awesome, Chris. So just
Thanks.
a couple questions as we begin moving toward the finish line, the set line. First one,
Sure.
you in my mind, you like model resilience to such a degree you may not even know it. Like you thought about the hospital food more than your leg when you were a 7-year-old. Like it's a remarkable thing. So is resilience a gift or is it a muscle that you have to stretch and build up or a little bit of both?
I think it might be a gift, but I think it's a result of determination, of having goals. And we talked about that earlier. I think it's a matter, hey, I want to do something and I'm going to do it no matter what. And I'm going to give it my all. And if I can give it my all and I don't do it, well, then I'm fine with it because I know I give it my all. And I did a podcast with USA Volleyball about failing, and I have failed so much. I have no fear of it. I don't get nervous for big matches. I have no nerves whatsoever because why? And I tell my girls I coach, why do you get nervous? You get nervous because you're afraid of screwing up. That's why people get nervous. So if you prepare yourself as well as you can, then you know that if I don't do it, it's fine because I have prepared myself as well as I can. So to me, it's I have failed so much that I've done it so much. I'm not worried about what other people think. I'm just worried about doing my best. And going back to being resilient, I think that's what it takes is you doing your best and you have this goal and you're gonna get there no matter what. But if you don't get there, it's not the end of the world. I mean, I hit the ball out of bounds, gold medal match, game 5 for a berth to the 2008 Paralympics in Beijing. And I'm the one who hit the ball out of bounds to lose the match, lose the gold medal, lose the berth, lose the bid to get to Beijing. And you know what? The next day, the sun came up, the birds sang, the world didn't end, life went on. And I think that's part of that resilient mindset that I'm going to do the best I can and do it. But if I don't get it, I mean, like right now, I'll give you an example. July of this last year, I had 2 rotator cuff muscles reattached. I had cadaver pieces put on my shoulder. I'm going through rehab now, and I'm having doubts. I mean, I don't know if I'm going to be ready in time to make the team for LA. Then in December, I had severe scoliosis onset of my L2 to L5, my base of my back. I shrunk more than an inch. The pain was ridiculous because my spinal cord was getting pinched over 2 spots. I had that straightened out, fused. I gained an inch back in my height because of it. So now I'm 6'5" again. But again, I don't know if I'm going to be healed up enough, to be able to play or play ever again with either injury. But I'm going to give it my best. I've been doing rehab 5 days a week. I'm going through all the motions. I'm still on all the team communications. Next week in Boston, we have a scrimmage with Poland. I'm going up there. I'll be with teammates. And I don't know. I don't know what my future holds, but I'm going to give it the best shot I can. And if I make it, great. If I don't, great. I know I gave it my all.
What does pain teach us that comfort can't? When I listen to what you're describing there, a lot of it is just based on struggle and then this willingness to fight forward, almost with your eyes shut, knowing that better days are in front of you. Like, let's go. So what does pain teach us that comfort can't?
It's so funny. The doctors would ask me, give me your pain on a scale of 1 to 10. I'm like, all right, 3, 4. And it's so bad. It's like white pain where you don't have any vision anymore. All you see is white. And I'm like, that's maybe a 5. I've had pain so long, so often that I think it's a subjective type of a question. But Pain, I don't know what it teaches me, to be honest with you. I might need some help with this answer from you. Maybe what did pain teach you? I tell you what it didn't teach me. It didn't teach me to stop.
Amen.
It didn't teach me to give up. All I know is that it's an obstacle, but it's not the end of the world.
Mm.
I never thought about a question. That's why sometimes I like doing these type of interviews and podcasts, because I get questions every now and then. I go, man, I never thought about that. Huh, yeah,
Right.
it's a pretty interesting thing.
Well, one of the things I thought you would have said two more things in addition to what
What's
you said.
that?
It's awesome.
Tell me.
One of the things is,
Tell me
number
your
one,
thing.
it did not teach me to quit, which was an awesome answer. I thought you would have said it taught me about the power of resolve to push through the struggle, which you clearly have modeled your entire life without even knowing it or naming it. But that's for sure. And then thirdly, you look back at the decades of work at the Y. I think your pain has taught you compassion for others. And I've always noticed with pain, whatever that word means for others, it either makes you bitter at, your brother for running the lawnmower when you were on the side and you were slipped off, and all you could have been so bitter, or it just makes you this compassionate guy who wants to meet others where they are in their struggle and remind them that there's a place for them. And I think pain, if I had to answer for you, I do think pain has opened up your heart to those who struggle.
That's a good answer. And you know what? You could be right. That could be the whole reason behind me trying to help people. I'll give you a quick story. I was in a fitness center 2 days ago working out, doing my hour and a half, 2 hour workout that I do. And there was a fella who I could tell he was a new amputee because he had what we call a test socket. His socket was a white woven material. And he was an AK, above the knee amputee. And he got on and he was on a machine right in front of me to the left. And when I got done doing my hand cycle, I got off and I started talking to him. I said, "Hey, welcome to the YMCA. My name's Chris. I work here. And if you have any questions, I can tell you're a new amputee." He goes, "Yeah, I just lost my leg back in July due to some cancer and some chemo side effects." And we meet him and talking for like 20 minutes. And I said, "Look, you have any questions about anything about being an amputee?" I mean, I've been an amputee now for almost 47 years, 48 years. And as it ended up, he actually by chance goes to the same prosthetist that I go to.
Wow.
And I just started going to one recently, but I went 20 something years not going to a prosthetist. But I think it was so many people helped me growing up, my older brothers and my sister and all the coaches and the same 25 kids I had in my class growing up and the small community I was in. So many people helped me along the way. I just want to help other people get there. I volunteer. I sit on the board for USA Volleyball. I volunteer for World Pair Volley. I officiate volleyball right now, and I don't do it for the pay. I do it to give back to the game because we don't have enough officials. The game's growing so fast. And I do all those things because I want the next person, the next 18-year-old kid who wants to get into the sport, I want to make their path easier. I want to make sure that there's still something there that they can make a national team and travel the world and have all these experiences. Trying to pay it forward, really, is all.
You handled your challenge, tragedy, amputation with such grace and grit. It's one way to respond to what happens when life doesn't go your way. For all of us listening to this conversation or watching the conversation on YouTube, we will bump into things going forward that indicates again that life is not going to go our way. So for those of us who are going to bump into that or currently find ourselves there right now, what's your encouragement to us? So for those of us who are just struggling with our lives right now, what would you say, Chris?
Oh, wow, that's a heavy question, man. It sounds simple, but it's going to get better. Find something small that you can accomplish that's going to, and it could be something that's getting up, on time out of bed. It could be walking down the stairs. It could be just find small triumphs,
Right.
build momentum. It sounds silly, but I've had bad days as a CEO in the YMCA. I fortunately haven't had anything really tragic happen in our Y system, but I've had bad days where I've gotten chewed out by members or by board members, and you know what? I find out that a good night's sleep, it's not that bad. The next day, the sun still comes up, the birds still sing. The next day is usually better, I found. Now, the problem doesn't go away. You still have to deal with the problem, but sometimes it gives you perspective. Sometimes it gives you a good idea of how to deal with the problem. Sometimes time gives you that. Me, I'm a morning person. Well, no, I'm not a morning person. I do my best thinking in the morning. I've had my best ideas in the morning. That's a great question, and that's how I deal with it. And that's how I do it. I'm a solution guy. I figure out where do I want to go, and then I work my way back.
Right.
And I figure out all the steps on the way back, and then I find out, okay, that's where I need to start. That's my first step, and then you just kind of have to work at it. And sometimes it takes a long time, like my shoulder.
Mm.
I'm 6 months into it. I got very discouraged. I saw the surgeon 2 weeks ago in Gainesville. I said, look, man, I'm really worried. I don't know if I'm going to be able to come back because above this right here is very weak above my shoulder. I'm having a hard time lifting it at the time. And he goes, look, Chris, you're in the 99 percentile strength at this point in rehab. You're not going to be 100% right out of the gates. It's not going to happen. You've had 2 rotator cuff muscles reattached. He said only about a 30% success rate for major league pitchers who have this. And the guy who did it does major league pitchers. And so he kind of put me in perspective because I was getting kind of discouraged that, oh, this isn't going to work. I started not feeling sorry for myself, but, I'm going through all this work. I'm doing all this for nothing. And I'm not going to be successful at it. So he had to kind of shift my perspective back and ground me and say, you know what, you're ahead of 99% of other people. Stop being so hard on yourself.
That's awesome.
And so
I love it. I think you said 2 huge things. The number one is take baby steps and don't apologize for just taking the next right step forward. That's huge. And secondly, perspective. I think, gosh, we sure give up our perspective pretty cheap sometimes. And so that's an awesome reminder right there, Chris. Brother, we have 7 questions that tether all of our guests together. They're called the Live Inspired 7. So prepare yourself. Here we go. Question number 1. What's been the most impactful book you've ever read?
it was Malcolm Gladwell, Tipping Point, because it's a great book about how humans think and what causes something to be successful.
Perfect. What's one positive characteristic or one trait you possessed as a little 7-year-old boy that you wish you exhibited as brilliantly today?
Oh, wow. I guess just fresh eyes, not being naive, but just that, what's the word I'm looking for? That giddiness of being a kid is the best way I can put it.
Wonder, joy,
Wonder,
optimism.
wonder, yes, wonder, yes, that's a good way. Not really optimism, but just wonder, like, oh, there's so many unknowns out there. So wonder would be a good one.
That's cool. If your home caught fire and all living things are out, you have an opportunity of running back in and grabbing one item. What's one physical thing you would grab from that burning house?
There is a case of videos that I had transcribed off of film that we have on CD discs, and I would grab a pile of CD discs of all of our vacations and films and stuff that we've accumulated. So that's what I would grab.
If you could sit on a bench on a gorgeous day and have a long conversation with anyone living or deceased, who do you want to be next to?
Ooh, wow, somebody funny. I don't know. I mean, a lot of people would say Jesus. That would be the go-to answer, I guess, would be Jesus. Outside of him, I don't know. I'll go with Jesus. How's that?
Known for his humor, we've brought Jesus into the bench with Chris Seilkop. Chris,
He may have been a funny guy. You don't know. He could have had a lot of dad jokes. You just don't know.
I have a feeling you'll find out one day, and there will be a lot of humor and a lot more vibrancy than we can fathom. What's the best advice you've ever received?
To the best business advice I ever received, which again changed my perspective, was from a CEO of the YMCA. He told our YMCA, we were in the basketball gym, and I was telling him how I prevented people from sneaking in the back door to play basketball. And he goes, Chris, he goes, why are you worried about the 1% coming in the back door when you have 99% going out the front door? And that kind of shaped my business experience, my planning for my business plans at the YMCA.
That's great. What advice, if you could go back in time a couple of years, would you give yourself at age 20? So what does that 20-year-old brash boy need to be reminded of?
Yeah, I was so cocky when I was 20. I look back at some of my newspaper interviews and stuff. Oh my gosh. Um, I don't know if I can say it on this interview.
We'll find out, man. There's only one way to find out if you can get the ball over the net. It's to try. So go ahead and drop it.
I'd say don't be so hungover on your first match. Let's put it that way. I was known to enjoy my time off the court with my teammates. In fact, there may or may not be a few rules in USA Volleyball because of me.
We're not saying, we're just saying there could be some rules.
Yeah, there
Perfect.
could be some rules.
Stop showing up so hungover, which there's a lot of layers to that.
Yeah.
We run the gauntlet, my friend. We're at the final point, and it is this. It has been said, Chris, that all great people can have their lives summed up in one sentence. How would you like yours to read?
He did his best. That's about it. That's all I can ask for is that people know that I did my best, whether they like me or they hate me or they respect me or they don't. That Seilkop always went out there and he gave it his all. He did his best.
Chris Seilkop, whether on the court, in the classroom, at the Y, in the community, I appreciate you doing your best and now sharing a little bit of your best with us on the Live Inspired podcast.
Thank you for having me. It's been an honor and I really enjoyed speaking with you. This has been a fantastic podcast.
My friend, you're listening to the voice of my friend Chris Seilkop. My name is John O'Leary, and today is your day. What a gift. Live with your soul on fire. One small but powerful reminder from Chris's conversation with us today goes like this. When life feels heavy, don't focus on fixing everything at once. Find one small win, take one small step, and let that small triumph build the momentum that allows you to keep going in your journey. Sounds small, but my friends, as we struggle forward in our lives, it is not small. It is transformational. Take that next right step today. If you enjoyed today's episode as much as I enjoyed bringing it to you, I think you would love my conversation with another one of my dear friends. His name is Tim Brand. Was texting with Tim just last weekend. Tim is the founder of Many Hands for Haiti. It's an organization that has served millions of meals, built hundreds of homes, and helped transform entire communities. Tim's story is a beautiful reminder that when we use what we have to serve a greater need, purpose grows and real change becomes possible. You can tune into my conversation with my friend, his name, Tim Brand, at episode 388, or just come on back with me to the website, johnolearyinspires.com/podcast, and we'll have a link for you in the show notes of this current episode. Family, friends, brothers and sisters, I thank you, as I always do, for tuning in to our podcast. If you've not lately subscribed, my goodness, do so now. It's free. So subscribe to the podcast. Anywhere you tuned into this episode, make sure you subscribe. It will ensure that each future episode arrives in your world. If you haven't rated it, do so now. May I recommend 5 stars? Come on. 5-star ratings, people. Do so. And if you haven't told the friends that you work with, that you worship with, that you work out with, that you live with, that you tune into the Live Inspired podcast with John O'Leary, and so should they. Do it today. In a marketplace replete with negativity and cynicism and pessimism, we bring forward the other side of the story. The fact that the foundation is firm, that God is still God, and the best is yet to come. So I want to thank you for tuning in this week. And until next week, my name is John O'Leary, and today is your day. What a gift. Live with your soul on fire.
Keeley Companies was started almost 50 years ago by the one and only Larry Keeley. What started as a small family-owned paving company in St. Louis has grown to a nationally known full-service construction, development, and restoration partner. Larry the Legend, as he is affectionately known, has been a part of this growth every step of the way and continues to provide guidance as his son Rusty, my buddy, drives their vision and achieves results on purpose. His unwavering foundation of a family culture with a focus on people has gotten Keeley Companies to where they are today and their journey is truly just beginning. To learn more about Larry the Legend and Keeley Companies, check them out at KeeleyCompanies.com.